Hi everyone and welcome to today's sewing card. It's Friday. I know it's a day late, but I have had so much going on with the kids with school fete and events happening around in the kids' lives that they required my full attention. So today's card, we're going to base it on some Bermuda Bay, some Whisper White, this is the Cool Caribbean, and the new designer series paper from the little pack. This is the 6x4 pack. You get 4 designs and I just think this is absolutely just some gorgeous designs in here. And I'm going to be using the striped on an angle side, and then you can see you've got the other spotty on the other side. We're going to be doing a little bit of watercolouring, and we're going to be using the stamp set Colour Me Christmas. So when we do watercolouring, you want to grab your Stays On ink, your aqua painters, and whatever type of actual media you want to use, whether it's watercolours, whether it's pens, whether it's inks. Today, because I don't have watercolouring crayons in the colour scheme I want, I'm going to be using ink pads. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick look at what my station looks like just when you don't see the mat. So when I zoom out, you can see that I've got, you can see what I'm wearing, but you can see I've got my stamp set. I am going to use watercolouring colours just on 2 crayons that I do have, but I've got an array of inks around me as well. Okay, so you can see that I've used my Stays On ink on, and the 2 images I've used is the Santa and the Christmas. I didn't know which one I want to use, so I figured what I might do is I might colour it in and then decide towards the end which one I'd like. And now the reason why I'm going to use my inks is the colours I want to use is Bermuda Bay and Coastal Cabana. I'm sorry I said Cool Caribbean before. That's an older Stampin' Up colour, but it does remind me of that, so I think that's why I keep suggesting that colour. Alright, so I just squeezed the lid just to get a little pool of ink, and you can see because it's the new Juicy inks, I didn't even have to press that hard. So I'm going to be using, I know traditionally we use Colour the Trees in green, but I'm loving this Bermuda Bay. And what I want to do is I'm actually going to start with the darkest colour, Bermuda Bay, and just flick on my way up. Now I'll zoom right in so you can see the technique that I just hope that's clear as well. Alright. I don't have a very fancy camera, so it doesn't autofocus. So you'll have to excuse me when I always have to refocus my cards, my camera. Okay, so I'm going to, because I've stamped it on Stampin' Up watercolour cardstock, it's such a heavy duty cardstock that you could keep layering your ink on there and it doesn't bleed and it doesn't go furry. And to prevent it from going furry as well, another tip is to not keep layering so heavily with the water. Let it dry in between the layers, and that way it prevents it going watery. Alright, so I'm just using the existing ink and pulling it up to the top there. But I'm going to lay that again, and I would like to make, in between the layers, I'm going to make towards the dark of each colour, of each layer of the tree dark. So I'm going to pick up as much ink as I can on my aqua brush. It's not something I bring out very often, the aqua brush, but only when I watercolour, but there's many purposes to use this aqua brush. But today we're going to be doing watercolouring. Alright, so I'm going to then switch to my pool party. You can hear my kids in the background. It is 5:30 in the morning, yet everybody's up in my family. Okay, so here's my pool party. Oh no, this one's Coastal Cabana. Oh, keep getting it wrong no matter. And bring up some there. Okay, and then once that dries, I'm actually going to stick Diamante's in between of those trees. Actually, no, I can probably just go ahead and colour them in cherry cobbler, and then might use Crystal Effects. Actually, I don't need the ink because I forgot. I have got cherry cobbler crayon. Just to make sure it's cherry cobbler. No, this is Riding Hood Red. And this is cherry cobbler. Oh, yes. Okay, so I like to pick up the colour from the end. Everyone's different. Some people want to scribble first, then pick up the colour that way. But I find I preserve my tip as much as I can and use the base of my crayon. Just colouring in that in. I'm not the best colourer, but I think watercolouring adds that forgivingness to it all. Okay. Now I've got Daffodil Delight. I'm going to use for the star. But I don't know if anyone remembers. Do you remember in the catalogue, it's not something that comes out, but it always comes out around Christmas time for me, is the Dazzling Details, and it's basically like the glitter but in stickles format, and I just love this, so I'll be using that. I'll be colouring this with the Daffodil Delight first, just to give it that yellow tinge. Now I'm going to have to let this dry because it is one of those cards that you want to let dry, and I'm going to use, just for the base, I'm going to use a little bit of chopped chip. Now I know I'm saying you can't see it, but off camera I've been wiping it and scribbling it on my notebook. This is my kind of like a smash book kind of thing, so it's all labelled with washi tape. But I've just scribbled all over my notebook in between because I'll probably use, I'm not very creative, but I'll use that as a backdrop to one of my, pages. Alright, I think I'm just going to stick to this tree and just let it dry for the meantime. I'm going to pick up some extra Bermuda Bay. I seem to be always getting tongue-tied with that ink. And just picking up the ink from the bottom, and I just want to make it dark on the bottom of each tree. Does not have to be perfect whatsoever. And I'm going to cut around this tree, so I'm not actually too fussy on if I'm perfect or not. But another tip too is, before you go ahead and cut, make sure your cardstock is dry, because it tends to just warp, and you don't want to ruin all your hard work. So, or you can just whack it with a heat gun pretty much, which I'll probably do because I'm a little bit impatient, and then that way we can get started on the card. So thanks for being patient watching me watercolour. Okay, so I have my Whisper White cardstock here, and I'm going to run it through the Big Shot with the stripes, the new stripes embossing folder that's in the seasonal catalogue. I'm loving this because pretty much after Christmas you can use it as a masculine type of effect as well. It's quite a versatile embossing folder. Now I know this actual label cut out here, I'm sorry and I do apologise, but I actually cut that with my Silhouette, but you can use the Deco Labels framelits. I don't have that one at the moment, but I wanted something quite similar, so I've used it and turned it into a square, something similar to it anyway. You can see the impression that is made. You'll see some different lighting on my mat today. I'm actually doing it in the daylight for once rather than night. Because I'm a day late, I'm actually doing this in the Saturday morning, which I'm actually quite enjoying because I don't feel like I then have to rush on a Thursday night after work filming. Oh, and here comes Taja. She's probably going to tell you how exciting it was at the fete, and she's still and she's quite chatty this morning. My little daughter was asking me permission to knock on the grandma and granddad's door downstairs because they're coming to visit. They watched the kids' performances last night, so it's quite got the family buzzing here at the Herbert household. Okay, so I'm just loving the effect of that striped embossing folder. It's so striking. Okay, so I have cut out some DSP, and the reason why I've got it this length is because it was some leftover DSP from another card project that I've done. So I'm trying to, you know, maximize my usage out of the leftover scraps even. So because the stripes are running that way, I'm thinking I might even keep the stripes running that way and make that a pennant. So I'll just grab my paper snips. The way that I do pennants is I pretty much guess where the middle is. I cut up to where I want the pennant to meet in the middle, and then I go either corners. You can use corner punches, you can use pretty much anything you want, but that's just the way I'm going to do this one. Okay, so I've got the new Cherry Cobbler ribbon. This is a 1-inch ribbon. This is the Christmas ribbon where it's in the seasonal catalogue. I'm just loving how everyone's making this ribbon into so much more than just a ribbon. You can see it in the catalogue. There's a lot of YouTube shows on it. Sorry, I just had to retie my ribbon because I wasn't happy how it was going. Okay. And I love the thickness of this ribbon. I'm just loving it. I feel so blessed having used Stampin' Up, these gorgeous Stampin' Up products in my latest cards. Oh, just amazing. I don't have Stampin' Up scissors, but I do have fabric scissors that everyone in my house knows it says ribbon, not to touch. It's very important to label that for those that want to touch. I know my paper snips ended up being in the kitchen at one stage, and Mummy had to rouse on them a little bit to say it's not normal scissors. So sometimes some of my stuff ends up going to the kids, but they know. They're still kids at the end of the day. Okay, so that's how I'm going to get that to look. Now, I still need to cut out this, so I'm going to cut it out, and then I'm going to put some of that dazzling details on there. I'm actually going to run this through the embossing folder with the new writing one. I can't remember on the top of my head, but I think might be a bit overdoing it with the embossing, might be too much, but I'm loving this and I'm going to use it. Oh, okay, now putting some dimensionals behind here. You can also hear the rainbow lorikeets. We feed them, then we feed the kookaburras. We've got a big setup of a bird feeder at the back, and early mornings they come for a feed, so it's going to be a little bit noisy. And sorry about the shading again, I'm doing this in the light, so I've got all different types of shadows. Okay, and then I'm going to stick this down using some glue dots. Let's pick that up and just put that towards the center. Okay, I'm going to stick this down with dimensionals, and then I'm going to color it in. So I'm bringing two types of mediums out. I'm going to use Crystal Effects. I'm going to actually cut the tiniest bit of dimensional and put it behind that star because I don't want that star being lost. Okay. Okay, I'm going to use Crystal Effects. Now, Crystal Effects leaves a kind of clear gel type of look once dried, and I'm going to put that on the berries. Now, just be careful. It does take a bit to dry, so I'll take a photo afterwards and show you the effect that it had on the card. So almost looks like a clear jelly. And then I'm going to bring my dazzling details. Sorry about the shade. I'll try and work left-handed without ruining my project so you can see in the light. There. Okay, so it's a very simple card. I'd go ahead and put another layer of Whisper White inside, and then another strip of the Bermuda Bay along the bottom. So this is what it looks like. What I'm going to put in the inside, I've pre-done it because I didn't want to fiddle around too much having that on top. There you go. There you go, so carrying the theme inside, and if you want you can punch out a little heart or a star just to stick on the bottom. Not too sure if they've still got it, but this is the itty bitty punch pack, and I'll just get the star. Put a bit of snail behind that. Just put it on the bottom. There you go. So something very different, bit of watercolouring. As I said, you can layer as much on that if you like. If you want, once that's dried again with the crystal effects and the dazzling details, go ahead and layer some more. So you can go as heavy as light as you want with the actual inks and your watercolouring. So it's a very clean card today. Usually I like to sponge and do all that, but I think this kind of clean card is going to be fun with, you know, with the kids giving and stuff like that. So thank you for watching Thank Card It's Friday using lots of new products from the Stampin' Up! Seasonal catalogue. Let me know if you want to order, or please leave a lovely comment or visit my blog for the project recipe for exact details on what you want to, what was used in this card, and even visit my Facebook. I put a lot of tips on there from Stampin' Up! Head Office and other lovely Stampin' Up! Demonstrators throughout the world. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.